Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech. In today's video, we will do a full comparison between the iPhone 6 and its successor, the iPhone 6s. As you can see, these phones look identical, but there are some definitive under-the-hood improvements worth looking into, such as the 3D touch. So many of you are actually asking questions such as, should I upgrade or not? Or maybe, should I buy the iPhone 6 or the 6s? Or perhaps, does this upgrade mean anything? And in this video, we will tackle those questions directly. So let's quickly go over everything that hasn't changed, and then we will do a deep dive into some dramatic under-the-hood upgrades that do appear to make the 6s better than the 6. Let's start off with the design and the build. Now, the iPhone always has been a well-designed phone, so it looks gorgeous in its finely crafted unibody frame. It's got a sleek and seamless design with a continuous form factor. And although the exterior design hasn't changed at all, the underlying build material has. The 6s is now constructed from aircraft grade 7000 series aluminum as opposed to the 6000 aluminum series in the older model. This will fortify the iPhone properly so it doesn't bend out of shape when in your pocket without a case. Now obviously this is a welcome change, but otherwise these phones look identical, but they are gorgeous. While we are on the subject of design, I want to quickly touch on the dimensions. Although the phones look identical, the dimension specs vary slightly. So we have a height of 138.3 millimeters and a width of 67.1 millimeters on both the 6 and the 6s. However, the 6s is marginally thicker at 7.1 millimeters as opposed to 6.9 millimeters on the 6. Not a big deal. Another slight difference we have is in the weight. The iPhone 6s is 143 grams, which is 14 grams heavier than the iPhone 6 at 129 grams. Okay, so 14 grams or 0.2 millimeters isn't a big deal for a lot of people, so I wouldn't put too much emphasis on this marginal difference. So let's move on to the screen size and resolution. The screen size and resolution on both these phones is identical, which is 4.7-inch IPS LCD screen with a resolution of 1334 by 750, which is 326 pixels per inches. Both the iPhone 6 and 6s do have a gorgeous display which allows for rich and realistic colors, but do not expect it to compete with some Quad HD displays we currently have on the market. Regardless, it is a great display and will satisfy any iPhone owner completely. Anyway, so far the 6s and the 6 don't seem to be much different. In fact, they appear to be exactly the same. However, every spec and feature from this point onward will show you that the 6s has drastically improved under the hood. So let's dive into some more exciting stuff. I want to start off with the processor and the memory. So the iPhone 6 runs on Apple A8 chip, which is a 64-bit dual-core processor clocked at 1.4 GHz with 1 GB of RAM. The iPhone 6s, on the other hand, sports a new A9 chip, which is also a 64-bit chip with a dual-core processor clocked at 1.8 GHz but with 2 GB of RAM. So we have a new processor, and this new processor is no joke. It offers a staggering 70% faster processing performance and 90% faster graphics performance. Those are some big numbers, and we will be running a benchmark at the end of this video to see the difference in raw numbers. As for storage, both the 6 and the 6s can be acquired with either 16 GB or 64 GB of internal storage, but with the 6s you can also get a third option with a capacity of 128 GB. Now let's move on to another even more dramatic change, dubbed the 3D touch. 3D touch is actually non-existent on the iPhone 6, so this is a brand new technology, and here is a synopsis of what this feature makes possible on the 6s. It is important to realize that 3D touch is part of multi-touch, but it adds a new dimension to the already existing multi-touch gestures such as tapping, swiping, and pinching. Now this new gesture is known as peek and pop. With a light press on the screen, you can peek into content such as photos, mail, or hyperlinks, and then with a deeper, firmer press on the screen, you can pop right into the full content. Now this is possible, of course, because the iPhone 6s can sense the amount of pressure you apply on the screen with your fingertips. Again, this is a 6s exclusive feature, so if you are in fact mesmerized by this new technology, you should definitely consider the 6s. 3D Touch also allows you to perform quick actions. Certain compatible app icons can be touched, which will pop a menu with available quick actions, as you can see. For instance, you can touch the camera icon, which brings up a quick action menu that allows you to take a selfie or take a photo and more without having to actually launch that app. It's almost like a right-click button for the iPhone. Absolutely fantastic. Of course, there's more you can do, but these are some of the highlights of 3D Touch. Let's also quickly talk about the iOS 9 before we dive into the camera features. Now, both the iPhone 6 and the 6s run iOS 9. And iOS 9, as always, is an exceptionally smooth and stable operating system that has a superior app ecosystem. Beautiful apps and gorgeous games are waiting to be downloaded by eager users all the time. For more information on iOS 9, its new features and capabilities, take a look at the video links provided in the description below. For now, let's move on to another major overhaul for the 6s, which is the camera. iPhone 6 has a great 8 megapixel iSight camera with an aperture of f2.2, but this camera was actually starting to lag behind in the smartphone industry, with flagship phones from LG and Samsung beating it outright. Thankfully, the 6s now has an improved 12 megapixel iSight camera, also with an f2.2 aperture, which will get you top of the line photos in even higher, crisper resolutions without losing the inherent picture quality thanks to the software and hardware improvements on the 6s. Let's be crystal clear. You will see a definitive difference in picture sharpness, picture quality, and you will get faster focus. This is not going to be some subtle increase in overall quality, rather a glaringly obvious one. So just be aware of that. If you're a camera freak, the 6s will get you a better camera on all fronts. Now, I do want to take a look at the video capabilities of both the 6 and the 6s, so let's dive in and take a look at the various options you can set. So both the iPhone 6 and 6s can record at 1080p at either 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. Also, both the iPhone 6 and 6s can record up to 240 frames per second at 720p, which allows for super slow motion video shoots. Additionally, the iPhone 6s can now record slow motion video at 1080p at 120 frames per second, which is fantastic. And of course, the 6s also will be able to record 4K at 30 frames per second, which the 6 totally lacks. In relation to the camera, another feature the iPhone 6 totally lacks is the live photos. The option is enabled by default when you launch the camera app, and all you have to do is snap a photo as normal, and the app simply captures 1.5 seconds before and after the time you press the capture button, and then proceeds to append it to both sides of the photo, which results in a live effect. And you can observe that in the video. So the front-facing camera has also seen an improvement. On the 6s, it has been bumped to 5 megapixels from 1.2 megapixels, so definitely expect better looking photos from the front end as well, though the main highlight is the rear camera, and the rear camera is going to be better on the 6s, so make your decision accordingly. So let's move on to the color options you have with the 6s. You can get the iPhone 6s in 4 different colors: silver, space gray, gold, and rose gold. And the iPhone 6 comes in silver or space gray. Finally, let's take a look at the battery. The iPhone 6 has a battery capacity of 1810 milliamp hours. The iPhone 6s has a battery capacity of 1715 milliamp hours. Now, there's a slight difference here. However, you will get the exact same battery life. Now, how do I know this? It's listed right on Apple's website. 14 hours of talk time, 10 days of standby time, 10 hours of internet use, and 11 hours of video playback. You can also get up to 50 hours of music playback. That's the maximum you get for each category I mentioned after a full charge. If you were to mix and match these activities, such as doing some browsing, some texting, a couple hours of gaming and listening to music, maybe for 3 hours, you will easily get a full day of use. I personally don't have any complaints on the battery life, especially with iOS 9, which has optimized the system for optimum battery performance, and you will see this in the 6 and the 6S. You're going to get great battery life. Now let's go ahead and run that benchmark I had mentioned earlier so we can compare the raw processing power between the two phones. We will be using the Geekbench benchmarking tool, which simulates real-world scenarios to stress test these devices, and then we will analyze the scores. So let's dive in. So as you can see, we cleared everything in the background. We launched Geekbench, and now we are running the actual benchmark. So let me fast forward to the end and show you the results so you can compare the numbers right away. And wow, here we got the results, and as you can see, the single core performance on the iPhone 6 is 1618, on the 6S it's 2554, and the multi-core is 2904 on the 6 and 4436 on the 6S. Apple was not lying. I do see a jump in power, which is in the range of 60 to 70%. Absolutely fantastic. So let's do a conclusion. Let's do a recap of what has changed and what hasn't changed, and determine which iPhone is the best choice for you. So what has changed? Quite a lot actually, and let's list them one by one. We have the addition of 3D Touch, a newer, improved 12 megapixel camera and 4K video recording, a newer 5 megapixel front-facing FaceTime camera, faster processor and graphics performance, faster Touch ID sensor, and a fortified build against any kind of bending. And now let's take a look at what hasn't changed. The look and the feel of the phone, the screen size and resolution, and most of the dimensions. And that's all. So what to do? Buy the 6S if this is your first iPhone purchase and money is not an issue. There's nothing wrong with having the best of the best if you can afford it. Also, if you're a gadget lover, you probably are itching to get the 6S because of the improvements and the new additions. But remember, despite the improvements, the iPhone 6 isn't some out-of-date piece of crap. It is still a very relevant phone, and it is by no means a slow phone, nor does it have a bad camera. It runs smooth and plays many of the latest games with no problem. But as always, the newer iPhone 6S happens to be the better successor because it is newer. I mean, this thing can natively edit 4K video, so think about that. Do you need that kind of power on your cell phone? And yes, it has 3D Touch, so if you're really mesmerized by this 3D Touch feature, you will have to buy the 6S. Now let's say you don't have enough money but you still want a newer iPhone. Then go for the 6. It comes with a $100 lower price tag than the 6S on Apple.com, but you can get it much cheaper if you buy a used one on some place like eBay. So tell me what you think. Which one will you buy? Drop a comment below, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to Saki Tech for more videos to come, and I will see you guys the next time.